and welcome to Friends. I am Avalon.
I'm Sabrina.
And welcome to our book discussion / reading / whatever we want to call this.
Yeah.
So today we'll be doing Chapter 5 from the Vampire Diaries, the first Vampire Diaries book in the series. Wow, this bodes well for me reading today. Couple quick announcements if you've been following us. We have been trying to find quinces. We actually went to the store today. They don't have them anywhere in San Diego. So we are in the process of trying to order one to try it out and just see how it goes.
Apparently it's just like an East Coast special fruit.
Yeah, so we don't really get them out here in the West Coast very easily, so we'll have to ship one in.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully it'll be good by the time we get here, because that would be
awful if it rotted in the week that it took to get here.
Guess we'll have to do like priority or something. Get here really fast. Something. Anyway, we're having a little tea party because it's lunchtime today, so we both have our tea. So we're having a tea party book discussion today with snacky snacks.
Mm-hmm. Some snacky snacks. So if you see us munching, that's why.
Yeah, I mean, I probably won't be munching too much while I read, but maybe towards the end.
Yeah. Okay. Well, welcome to our show, our little YouTube channel, and let's dive on in.
Yeah, let's dive right in. Chapter 5. Oh, do you want to give us a little recap what happened last time? To put you on the spot.
Put me on the spot. I remember bits and pieces.
She went to the graveyard to go visit her mom and dad.
Yeah.
And then who was waiting for her there?
Stefan?
Not
the
Stefan.
Crow.
Not Stefan and the Crow.
Oh, the girls.
The girls.
Meredith and Bonnie.
Yeah, Meredith and Bonnie. And
they eventually started to get back home.
And then they were going to take a shortcut.
Mm-hmm. And it was really dark, and they went through the shortcut, and they felt like somebody was, following them or trying to, hurt them.
And then they had a feeling like if they crossed the bridge that they would be okay, so they, ran, and they got across the bridge.
Yeah. Bonnie had a vision, and she said to Meredith that she's gonna die.
Yeah, she said she's gonna die young. So that doesn't bode well for her.
No. And they eventually crossed the bridge, and I think Elena saw something. Somebody, or
I think they just saw the Crow.
The Crow, that's what it was.
So this Crow is still following them
from the cemetery, so they could get back home to their houses, and they eventually did.
Yeah. And once they crossed the bridge, they felt fine. They were like, okay, we're good. So. No scary bad guys anymore.
Yeah, that sigh of relief came over them.
Yeah.
And that's all I really remember.
I think that was about it.
There's our recap.
I'm going to start putting you on the spot more often, see how much you remember.
Yeah, from a week's time.
Alright, you ready?
Okay, we're ready.
Okay, Chapter 5. The full moon was directly overhead when Stefan came back to the boarding house. He was giddy, almost reeling, both with fatigue and from the glut of blood he had taken. It had been a long time since he let himself feed so heavily, but the bust of wild power by the graveyard had caught him up in a frenzy, shattering his already weakened control. He still wasn't sure where the power had come from. He had been watching the human girls from his place in the shadows when it exploded from behind him, sending the girls fleeing. He had been caught between the fear he had been caught between the fear that they would run into the river and the desire to probe this power to find the source. In the end, he had decided to follow her, unable to chance her getting hurt. Something black had winged towards the woods as the humans reached the sanctuary of the bridge. But even Stefan's night senses could not make out what it was.
So he was watching them.
He was watching
during that whole charade in
we
the
just
cemetery
didn't know that
at the time.
So he's starting to stalk her. Hey,
Yeah.
hey. Hey.
Stalkery.
So, at school, he's just going to be like, no, I don't like you. Yes, come be with me. No, I can't be with you.
Yes, that's exactly what's going to happen.
All right. But even though Stefan's night senses could not make out what it was, he watched while she and the other two started in the direction of the town. Then he had turned back to the graveyard. It was empty now, purged of whatever had been there. On the ground lay a thin strip of silk that to ordinary eyes would have been gray in the dark. But he saw the true color, and he crushed it between his fingers, bringing it slowly to his lips. He could smell the scent of her hair.
Oh, he found her ribbon.
Ah, her ribbon.
So now he's
smelling it.
Oh, it smells so good.
This is like some
Yum.
some of that Bundy shit going on.
Stefan, what are you doing? This is
Calm
creepy.
down.
Like, calm down. You didn't even want her
Smelling
anyway. You were like, go away. I can't be with you. I'm gonna do football instead. Goodbye.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now he's like obsessing with her.
What are you doing, Stefan? What are you doing?
Make up your mind. Hot and cold.
Hot and cold, definitely. Mm-hmm.
Eat it.
Memory engulfed him. It was bad enough when she was out of his sight, when a cool glow of her mind only teased the edges of his consciousness. But to be in the same room with her at school, to feel her presence behind him, to smell the heady fragrance of her skin all around him, it was almost more than he could bear. He had heard every soft breath she took, felt her warmth radiating back against his back, sensed each throb of her sweet pulse, and eventually, to his horror, he found himself giving in. His tongue had brushed back and forth over his canine teeth, enjoying the pleasure/pain that was building there, and encouraged it. He breathed her smell into his nostrils deliberately and let the visions come, imagining it all, her sweet, soft neck that would be, and how his lips would meet it with equal softness at first, planting tiny kisses there until he reached the yielding hollow of her throat. How he would nuzzle there in the place where her heart beat so strongly against the delicate skin, and how at last his lips would part, would draw back from the aching teeth, now sharp as little daggers, and no! He brought himself out of the trance with a jerk, his own pulse beating raggedly, his body shaking. The class had been dismissed, movement was all around him, and he could only hope no one was observing him too closely. When she had spoken to him, he was unable to believe that he had to face her while his veins burned and his whole upper jaw ached. He'd been afraid for a moment that his control would break and he would seize her by the shoulders and take her in front of all of them. Oh, baby. Oh, baby.
Wow.
This is getting a little intense.
Dang.
All right. He had no idea how he'd gotten away. Only that same time later, he was channeling his energy into exercise, dimly aware that he was not able to use his powers. It didn't matter. Even without them, he was in every way superior to the mortal boys who competed with him on the football field. His sight was sharper, his reflexes faster, his muscles stronger. Presently, a hand had clapped him on the back, and Matt's voice was ringing in his ears. "Congratulations! Welcome to the team." Looking into the honest, smiling face, Stefan had been overcome with shame. "If you knew what I was, you wouldn't smile at me," he thought grimly. "I've won this competition of yours by deception, and the girl you love, you do love her, don't you?" In his thoughts right now. And she had remained in his thoughts despite all of his efforts to banish her that afternoon. He had wandered to the graveyard blindly, pulled by the woods by a force he did not understand. Once there, he had watched her, fighting herself, fighting the need, until the surge of power had sent her and her friends running, and then he'd come home only after feeding, after losing control of himself. He couldn't remember exactly how it had happened or how he let it happen. That flare of power had started it, awakening things inside of him best left sleeping. The hunting need, the craving for the chase, for the smell of fear, and the savage triumph of the kill. It had been years, centuries, since he felt the need with such a force. His veins had begun burning like fire, and all of his thoughts had turned red. He could think of nothing else but the hot, coppery taste, the primal vibrancy of blood. With the excitement still raging through him, he'd taken a step or two after the girls. What might have happened if he hadn't sensed the old man was better left not thought about. But as he reached the end of the bridge, his nostrils had flared at the sharp, distinctive odor of human flesh, human blood. The ultimate elixir, the forbidden wine, more intoxicating than any liquor, the steaming essence of life itself. And he was so tired of fighting the need, There had been a movement on the bank under the bridge. A pile of old rags stirred, and the next instant Stefan had landed gracefully cat-like beside it. His hand shot out and pulled the rags away, exposing a wizened, blinking face atop a scrawny neck. His lips drew back, and then there was no sound but the feeding. Now he stumbled up the main staircase of the boarding house. He tried not to think about it, and not to think about her, about the girl who tempted him with her warmth, her life. She had been the one he truly desired, but he must not stop to that. He must put a stop to that. He must kill any such thoughts before they were started from now on, for his sake and for her own. He was her worst nightmare come true, and she didn't even know it. "Who's there? Is that you, boy?" a cracked voice called sharply. I was more like, "Who's there? Is that you, boy?"
Yeah, that's more like it.
A cracked voice called sharply, making an old lady sound.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. One of the second-story doors opened and a gray head poked out. "Yes, Signora, Miss Flowers, I'm sorry I disturbed you." "It takes more than a creaky floorboard to disturb me. You locked the door behind you." "Yes, Signora, you're safe." "That's right. We need to be safe here. You never know what might be in those woods, do you?" He looked quickly at the smiling little face, surrounded by wisps of gray hair and the bright, darting eyes. Was there a secret hidden in them? "Good night, Signora." "Good night, boy." She shut the door. In his own room, he fell onto the bed and lay staring up at the low, slanting ceiling. Usually he rested uneasy at night. It was not his natural sleeping time. But tonight he was tired. It took so much energy to face the sunlight, and the heavy meal only contributed to his lethargy. Soon, although his eyes did not close, he no longer saw the whitewashed ceiling above him. Random scraps of memory floated through his mind. Catherine, so lovely that evening in the fountain, moonlight shivering on her pale golden hair. How proud he had been to sit with her, to be the one to share her secret. "But now you can never go out in the sunlight?" "I can, yes, as long as I wear this." She held up a small white hand, and the moonlight shone on her lapis ring there. "But the sun tires me so much. I have never been very strong." Stefan looked at her, at the delicacy of her features and the slightness of her body. She was almost as insubstantial as spun glass. No, he would never have been strong. She would never have been strong. "I was often ill as a child," she said softly, her eyes on the play of the water in the fountain. "The last time the surgeon finally said I would die, I remember Papa crying, and I remember lying in my big bed, too weak to move. Even breathing was too much of an effort. I was so sad to leave the world, and so cold, so very cold." She shivered, and then smiled. "But what happened?" "I woke in the middle of the night to see Gurdon, my maid, standing over my bed, and then she stepped aside, and I saw a man she had brought. I was frightened. His name was Klaus, and I'd heard the people in the village say he was evil. I cried out to Gurdon to save me, but she just stood there watching. When he put his mouth on my neck, I thought I was going to die." She paused. Stefan was staring at her in horror and pity, and she smiled comfortingly at him. "It was not so terrible after all. There was little pain at first, but then it quickly went away, and then the feeling was actually pleasant. When he gave me his own blood to drink, I felt stronger than I had in months, and then he waited for hours until dawn. When the surgeon came, he couldn't believe I was able to sit up and speak. Papa said it was a miracle, and he cried from happiness." Her face clouded. "I will have to leave my papa sometime soon. One day he will realize that since that illness, I have not grown an hour older." "And you never will?" "No, that is the wonder of it, Stefan." She gazed up at him with childlike joy. "I will be young forever, and I will never die. Can you imagine?" He could not imagine her as anything other than what she was now, lovely, innocent, and perfect. "But you did find it frightening first." At first a little, but Gerden showed me what to do. It was she who told me to have this ring made with a gem that would protect me from the sun. While I lie in bed, she brought me a rich, warm protest to drink. Later, she brought small animals her son had trapped. Not people? Her laughter rang out. Of course not. I can get all I need from in the night from a dove. Gerden says that if I wish to be powerful, I should take human blood, for the life essence of humans is the strongest, and Klaus used to urge me to. He wanted to exchange blood again, but I told Gerden I did not want power. And as for Klaus, she stopped and dropped her eyes, so the heavy lashes lay on her cheek. Her voice was soft as she continued. I do not think it is a thing we need to be done lightly. I will take human blood, but only if I have found my companion, the one who will be by my side for all of eternity. She looked at him gravely. Stefan smiled at her, feeling lightheaded and bursting with pride. He could scarcely contain the happiness he felt in the moment. But that was before his brother had returned from the university, before Damon had come back and seen Catherine's jewel-like eyes. On his bed in the low-roofed room, Stefan moaned. Then the darkness drew him in deeper with new images began to flicker through his mind. They were scattered glimpses of the past that did not form a connected square. He saw them like scenes briefly illuminated by flashes of lightning. His brother's face twisted into a mask of inhuman anger. Catherine's blue eyes sparkling and dancing as she pirouetted in her new white gown. The glitter of white behind a lemon tree. The feel of the sword in his hand. Gillespie's voice shouting at them from far away. The lemon tree. He must not go behind the lemon tree. He saw Damon's face again, but this time his brother was laughing wildly, laughing on and on, a sound like a grate of broken glass, and the lemon tree was closer now. Damon, Catherine, no! He sat bolt upright in his bed. He ran shaking hands through his hair and steadied his breath. A terrible dream. It had been a long time since he had been tortured by dreams like that. Long indeed, since he dreamed at all. The last few seconds played over and over again in his mind, and he saw it again, the lemon tree, and heard again his brother's laughter. It echoed in his mind too clearly. Suddenly, without being aware of a conscious decision to move, Stefan found himself at the open window. The night air was cool in his cheeks, and he looked into the silvery dark. Damon? He sent the thought on a surge of power questing. Then he felt absolute stillness, listening with all senses. He felt nothing, no ripple, no response. Nearby, a pair of night birds rose in flight. On the town, many minds were sleeping in the woods. Nocturnal animals went about their business. He sighed and turned back into the room. Perhaps he had been wrong about the laughter. Perhaps he'd been wrong about the menace in the graveyard. Fell's Church was still and peaceful, and he should try to emulate it. He needed sleep. September 5th. Actually, September 6th at 1 a.m. Dear Diary, I should go back to bed soon. Just a few minutes ago, I woke up to thinking someone was shouting, but now the house is quiet. So many strange things have happened tonight that my nerves are shot, I guess. At least I woke up knowing exactly what I'm going to do about Stefan. The whole thing just sort of sprang out of my mind. Plan B, Phase 1 begins tomorrow. Frances' eyes were blazing, and her cheeks were flushed with color as she approached the three girls on the table. Oh, Elena, you've got to hear this! Elena smiled at her, polite, but not too intimate. Frances ducked her brown head. I mean, can I join you? I just heard the wildest thing about Stefan Salvatore. Have a seat, said Elena graciously. But, she added, buttering a roll, we're not really interested in news. You? Frances stared. She looked at Meredith, then at Bonnie. You're joking, right? Not at all. Meredith speared a green bean and eyed it thoughtfully. We have other things on our mind today. Exactly, Bonnie said after a start. Stefan's old news, passé. She bent down and rubbed her ankle. Frances looked at Elena appealingly. But I thought you wanted to know about him. Curiosity, Elena said. After all, he's a visitor, and I wanted to welcome him to Fell's Church. But of course, I have to be loyal to Jean-Claude. Jean-Claude? Jean-Claude, said Meredith, raising her eyebrows and sighing. Jean-Claude, echoed Bonnie gamely. Delicately, with a thumb and forefinger, Elena drew a photo out of her backpack. Here he is standing in front of a cottage where we stayed, right after he picked me a flower and, well, she smiled mysteriously. I shouldn't repeat it. Frances was gazing at the photo. It showed a bronzed young man, shirtless, standing in front of a hibiscus bush and smiling shyly. He's older, isn't he? She said with a respect. 21, of course. Elena glanced over her shoulder. My aunt would never approve, so we're keeping it from her until I graduate. We have to write each other secretly. How romantic, Frances breathed. I'll never tell a soul, I promise. But about Stefan, Elena gave her a superior smile. If, she said, I am going to eat a continental. I prefer French to Italian every time. She turned to Meredith. Right? Mm-hmm. Every time. Meredith and Elena smiled knowingly at each other, and she turned to Frances. Don't you agree? Yes, said Frances hastily. Me too, every time. She smiled knowingly herself and nodded several times, and she got up and left. When she was gone, Bonnie said pettishly, This is going to kill me, Elena. I know I'm going to die if I don't hear the gossip. Oh, that I can tell you, Elena replied calmly. She was going to say there was a rumor going around that Stefan Salvatore is a narc. A what? Bonnie stared and then burst into laughter. That's ridiculous. What narc in the world would dress like that and wear dark glasses? I mean, he's done everything he can to draw attention to himself. Her voice trailed off and brown eyes widened. But then that may be why he does it. Who would ever suspect anyone so obvious? And he does live alone, and he's awfully secretive. Elena, what if it's true? It isn't, said Meredith. How do you know? Because I'm the one who started it. At Bonnie's expression, she grinned and added, Elena told me to. Oh, Bonnie looked admiringly at Elena. You're wicked. Can I tell people he's got a terminal disease? No, you can't. I don't want any Florence Nightingale types lining up to hold his hand. But you can tell people whatever you want about Jean-Claude. Bonnie picked up the photograph. Who is he really? The gardener. He was crazy about the hibiscus bushes. He's also married with 2 kids. Pity, Bonnie said seriously. And you told Frances not to tell anybody about him. Right. Elena checked her watch, which means that by, say 2 o'clock, it'll be all over the school. After school, the girls went to Bonnie's house. They were greeted at the front door by shrill yapping, and when Bonnie opened the door, a very old, very fat Pekingese tried to escape. Oh, doggy.
Hello, dog.
Hello, doggy. His name was Yangtze, and he was spoiled, so no one except Bonnie's mother could stand him. He nipped at Elena's ankle as she went by.
Didn't one of your dogs used to do that a long time ago?
Tanker, he still does it. And he still yips at everything.
This is true.
So, yeah.
Maybe he's like a Yangtze's like spirit animal.
Probably.
Yeah.
They sound alike, except Tanker's not fat.
Do animals have spirit animals?
Why not?
Sure. Okay. All right.
The living room was domed and crowded with lots of rather fussy furniture and heavy curtains at the windows. Bonnie's mother, Mary, was there, unpinning a cap from her wavy red hair. She was 2 years older than Bonnie, and she was 2 years older. Wait, what? Oh, Mary's sister. Bonnie's sister, Mary. I was like, how is her mother only 2 years older than her?
That doesn't work.
That doesn't work unless she was 2 years old and had a baby. Like, that would
Had
be...
a period.
Ooh.
No. Mm-mm.
Do you know what I learned? That babies can have periods when they're born.
Technically.
Yeah. Because they
can have it from their mom.
Yeah, they have like the rush of hormones from their
Yeah.
mom, so then
It makes them have a period, but they're not ovulating. They're just excreting the blood out.
I learned that the other day.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, back to this. Oh, Bonnie, she said. I'm glad you're back. Hello, Elena, Meredith. Elena and Meredith said hello. What's the matter? You look tired, said Bonnie. Mary dropped her cap on the coffee table. Instead of answering, she asked a question in return. Last night, when you came home so upset, where did you say you girls had been? Down by Wickery Bridge. That's what I thought. Mary took a deep breath. Now listen to me, Bonnie McConaughey.
Don't you ever go there again, and especially not alone and at night. Don't you understand? But why not? Bonnie asked, bewildered. Because last night somebody was attacked out there. That's why not. And do you know where they found him? Right under the bank of Wickery Bridge. Elena and Meredith stared at her in disbelief, and Bonnie clenched Elena's arm. Somebody was attacked under the bridge? But who was it? What happened? I don't know. This morning, one of the cemetery workers spotted him lying there. He was some homeless person, I guess, and he probably would have been sleeping there under the bridge when he was attacked. But he was half dead when they brought him in, and he hasn't regained consciousness yet. He may die. Elena swallowed. What do you mean attacked? I mean, said Mary distinctly, that his throat was nearly ripped out. He lost an incredible amount of blood. They thought it might have been an animal at first, but now Dr. Lowen says it was a person, and the police think that whoever did it might be hiding in the cemetery. Mary looked at each of them in turn, her mouth a straight line. So if I were there by the bridge or the cemetery, Elena Gilbert, then the person may have been there with you. Don't you get it? You don't have to scare us anymore, said Bonnie. We get the point, Mary. All right, good. Mary's shoulders slumped, and she rubbed the back of her neck wearily. I've got to lie down for a while. I don't mean to be crabby. She walked out of the living room. Alone, the three girls looked at each other. It could have been one of us, said Meredith quietly. Especially you, Elena. You went there alone. Elena's skin was prickling, the same painfully alert feeling that she got at the old graveyard. She could feel the chill of the winds and see the rows of tall tombstones all around her. Sunshine and Robert E. Lee had never seemed so far away. Bonnie, she said slowly, did you see somebody out there? Is that what you meant when you said someone was waiting for me? In the dim room, Bonnie looked at her blankly. What are you talking about? I didn't say that. Yes, you did. No, I didn't. I never said that. Bonnie, said Meredith, we both heard you. You stared out at the old gravestones, then you told Elena. I don't know what you're talking about, and I didn't say anything. Bonnie's face was pinched with anger, but there were tears in her eyes. I don't want to talk about it anymore. Elena and Meredith looked at her helplessly. Outside, the sun went behind a cloud.
That was a long chapter.
That was a long chapter. A lot happened.
Yeah, I'm like, wow.
Wow.
So we got a little insight into what Stefan's feeling, which is like super,
a lot of turmoil.
Super stalker vibes. Like,
yeah.
Super stalker vibes.
He's also trying to fight what is now his natural instinct.
Mm-hmm.
He's trying to fight that because he doesn't want to kill anybody, and that's what hasn't killed anybody in centuries, or he hasn't had that urge to kill anybody in centuries, and now that he's all up in Elena's scent and whatnot, and now he wants to kill specifically.
But is it specifically Elena that he wants to kill, or is it
specifically Elena?
Yeah, I mean, kind of, but I don't think it's Elena that's causing that. I think it's whatever this mysterious force is that was at the graveyard with them. Because I don't think
possibly.
Because he said that he felt the thing at the graveyard, and that's what urged him to kill it.
And he couldn't find it.
Mm-hmm.
Possibly.
But
maybe. Unless it's a doppelganger thing.
Doppelganger thing? I don't know.
Yeah.
But the other thing is that we had a journal entry in the middle of that, and it wasn't signed. So we don't know who was writing it either.
True.
Yeah, back here.
Yeah.
It was saying, Plan 1, Phase 1 begins tomorrow, or Plan B, Phase 1 begins tomorrow. So apparently that was whoever this was, his first attempt. To try and kill Elena, or try and get Stefan to eat human blood, or kill somebody or something. But Phase 1 didn't work, apparently.
So now they have to do Phase 2. Or Plan B, or whatever.
So we got a little insight into the killer.
Yeah.
Got a little insight into Stefan and his stalkerish tendencies.
Yes.
And we know that it wasn't just I'm not interested in you. It's
I'm so interested that I need to not be interested.
Yeah. And I think he's a little bit of a masochist. Or, not masochist, what's it called? When... I'm trying to think of where I was going with that.
I don't know what masochist is.
Oh, it's when you like pain. He's I guess that's the right word.
He thrives on pain?
Well, like, he feels like he deserves punishment. He's like, I don't deserve to be
Oh.
happy. I'm damned. I deserve this. Like,
Mhm.
I deserve all of the badness. I shouldn't be on the team. I did this by, cheating.
Yeah. No, it was all deception.
So he's, like, a little bit of a masochist there, where he's like, I deserve the pain. I deserve it.
Yeah.
So I think we got a little of an insight into that.
Mm-hmm.
He's definitely punishing himself.
Yep.
We have Elena over here who's pretending to have some secret lover.
Yeah. Back in what, France or
Yeah.
Italy? French. She
France.
said she preferred French over Italian.
Yeah,
at the time.
yeah.
Mhm.
He's like, if you're gonna have a breakfast, I prefer French than Italian.
Yep.
Yeah. So
she's playing this game though to probably to try and get attention from Stefan.
yeah, by saying, oh, I have a boyfriend now.
Like, look at me.
Bye, look at me.
He's so cute. Look at his
Mhm.
shirtless picture.
When it's actually her gardener.
Yeah.
Who's
From when
married.
she was visiting.
Yeah, and who's married and has 2 kids. I love how Bonnie was like, hey, is he taken?
Mm. She's totally all up on that. So yeah. It was a good chapter, a lot happened. We're starting to see things like kind of roll into motion.
Yeah,
Which is
we're
nice.
definitely, like, this was definitely an inside chapter to, like, all of the different main characters that are going to be
Showing up.
showing
Klaus,
up.
they mentioned Klaus for the
They
first
did.
time.
They did mention
Klaus
Klaus.
changed Catherine.
Yes.
Which I don't think I knew that, even from Vampire Diaries, but it's been a while.
We did learn that. We did
On the show?
We did learn that on the
Okay.
show, but it was towards the end. It
That's
was
what I
when, like,
thought.
when they, like, killed, like, one of the originals. Then,
Yes.
like, their entire line dies. And
Yes.
so then they wanted to kill Klaus, and then they realized that,
If he
like,
does, then Elena and Catherine will
we'll
die.
both die.
And
so-
Stefan, because Catherine changed Stefan.
Yeah,
and
so,
Damon
like, they realized that they could
can't
not
kill him.
kill him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
but-
was later in the show. I didn't realize it was so. For some reason, I forgot. But that's the first time we mentioned Klaus so far,
Yeah.
which is, I think, really cool.
They
'cause it's
didn't- But they didn't mention that he was an original, though. They just said that he was just
A guy.
A guy who,
transform.
transformed her. And it's funny because Klaus wanted to continue doing it, and she's like,
No.
no, I'm not interested.
He was trying to push her into doing it again, or kill
Mhm.
humans basically to transform them.
Well, you can also see, like, her manipulative tendencies, because she had already turned stuff and said, like, oh, yeah, I would only turn somebody if,
they're
like, I
gonna
was
be
going to
my
spend...
forever.
Yeah, and then Damon gets back, and she's like,
Oh hi.
oh, hi, you're cute. Bye, Stefan. I'm
Both of you.
gonna go with him.
With your brother.
Yeah, bye.
See, that's the thing. If that had happened to me, like, if I had, like, a sister and I had, like, a guy, and
I would
then
be
he
so
left me for my
pissed.
sister after, like, we've had a long, I don't know.
It would go down.
There might be a body bag. I honestly don't know, because I don't know how I would feel about, like, my sister and then the guy, and
Well,
just, like,
and,
that's
like,
so hurtful, and
We don't know exactly what happened to Catherine. We know that she died.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Off-screen death. And we don't know what happened to Damon. Apparently there's something with a lemon tree because it kept, like, popping up.
in
and,
his, like, dream.
Yeah, so there's
And
some...
he couldn't go behind the lemon tree, but he did.
Yeah.
So.
And something to do with... It sounded like something to do with his father, so maybe, like, his father killed both of them because Damon refused to go to the school.
Probably. Because he was just so fed up with them.
Just like a theory. Because he seemed pretty pissed about that.
He was pissed.
He doesn't seem like a nice
He doesn't
guy.
seem like a loving father.
Not at
Seems
all.
very much like a dictator.
You will go to school.
End of story.
Yeah.
Okay. That's it.
I think that's about it.
I don't have predictions, but
Well,
That's what
you
I
had a
think.
couple. You had a prediction that, like Catherine's not dead. And
oh yeah, I don't think she's not dead.
Yeah.
She's not.
She's hanging out there
She's
somewhere. She's out there.
I think she's probably watching everything.
Any predictions on what the mysterious force is that's the Raven?
It might be Catherine.
Maybe.
It could be. So
Alright.
that's it.
That's it. We'll see you guys next time.
Yes.
Bye!
Bye.